In the world of the Bible, the immutable law of humanity is birth, aging, sickness, and death. However, there are strange exceptions, figures who seemingly bent the linear timeline to step into another state of existence. Who were they and why did they vanish so mysteriously? Enoch. The man who walked with God in Genesis 5:24, we encounter a brief yet evocative passage. Enoch walked with God and he was not, for God took him. Imagine the context of that time. While all of humanity was facing death, Enoch did not experience a painful end. There was no grave, no remains, no trace of an ending. Many scholars interpret walking with God as an extreme spiritual state, where he achieved such absolute harmony with the Creator that his life was no longer limited by conventional space and matter. He did not die, he simply shifted his state of existence. Elijah. A chariot of fire and a whirlwind, if Enoch's disappearance was silent. The departure of the prophet Elijah was a display of earth-shattering power, 2 Kings 2:11. As they still went on and talked, behold, chariots of fire and horses of fire separated the two of them. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. This detail makes any modern reader pause and reflect. A chariot of fire, a whirlwind. Could this be the language of the ancients, used to describe a portal phenomenon for which they lacked the technical terminology? Elijah is said not to have died, but to have been taken away to prepare for a more important mission in the future. The stories of Enoch and Elijah pose a profound question for readers of all ages. Is death truly the end, or is it merely a transition to another dimension? The Bible's recording of these cases serves as an affirmation that the world we live in is only a small part of a larger reality. These time travelers serve as living proof that divine power can intervene in, bend, and transcend the physical laws that we have always considered unbreakable. King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. The statue of gold and iron, the book of Daniel, chapter 2, records one of the most detailed and controversial prophecies in history. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon had a dream about a colossal statue composed of various materials, head of gold, representing the Babylonian Empire, chest and arms of silver, symbolizing the Medo-Persian Empire, belly and thighs of bronze, symbolizing the Greek Empire under Alexander the Great, legs of iron, symbolizing the strength and expansion of the Roman Empire, feet of iron mixed with clay, a fragile mixture representing fragmented nations of the future. What is astonishing is that when Daniel interpreted this dream, he was standing at the height of Babylonian power. His accurate description of the succession of empires, which would replace one another over the subsequent centuries, has baffled historians. Was this a feat of prophetic genius, or the intervention of a force that scripted world history? Probability and historical touchpoints when studying the prophecies concerning the Messiah. Mathematicians and theologians have conducted probability calculations. How could one individual simultaneously fulfill dozens of prophecies written between 400 and 500 years prior? Place of birth must be Bethlehem, prophecy of Micah. Lineage must be from the house of David. Manner of death must be pierced, spat upon, and betrayed by a friend for 30 pieces of silver, prophecy of Zechariah. The fulfillment of these details with such numerical precision cannot be explained simply by random coincidence. It is akin to throwing a handful of sand into the air and having it arrange itself into a perfect picture as it hits the ground. Prophecy, a cipher or a warning. Many view prophecy as a rigid map of the future. However, a deeper perspective is to view it as a signaling system. In the Bible, prophecy is often not intended to satisfy curiosity about the future, but to warn of the consequences of current choices. Seeing the future in the Bible is not merely watching a movie in advance. It is the realization that every human action today serves as a brick in the architecture of tomorrow. The prophets did not just foretell the collapse of empires, they foretold the collapse of arrogance, ambition, and human values. The bizarre imagery in the Book of Revelation, is it timeless technology? The Book of Revelation, the final book of the Bible, has long been a labyrinth of symbolic imagery that baffles anyone attempting to decode it. To the people of the first century, what the Apostle John saw in his vision was completely alien to their world. Yet when viewed through the lens of the 21st century, many wonder, is this how an ancient person described technologies or events for which they had no language to name? Strange creatures, machines, or living entities. In chapters 4 and 9, John describes entities with astonishing forms. Living creatures with many eyes and wings. These entities are described as being full of eyes in front and in back, in modern language. If we strip away the religious veil, could this be a description of global surveillance systems, satellites, or drones with cameras watching every corner? Locusts with human-like faces, hair like women's hair, and teeth like lions' teeth. Some researchers have put forward bold hypotheses. Could these be descriptions of fighter jets, attack helicopters, or mechanized military vehicles with shiny metal plating, like breastplates of iron? And terrifying roars, the sound of their wings was like the thundering of many horses, and chariots rushing into battle. The city coming down from heaven. In chapter 21, John describes the holy city of New Jerusalem. The city is laid out as a square, its length the same as its width. Its length and width and height are equal. A perfectly cubic structure of immense size floating in midair. Many enthusiasts of speculative theories have drawn parallels to the idea of massive space stations, or artificial off-world cities, O'Neill cylinders, a concept that modern humanity has only recently begun to visualize in science fiction films. For an ancient person, seeing a shiny, metallic structure hovering in the sky, the only way to express it would be as something coming down from heaven. Why symbolic language? Why did God not choose a more explicit explanation? The answer perhaps lies in the timeless nature of the message. If John had accurately described missiles, computers, or satellites, people living in the 10th, 15th, or 18th centuries would have understood nothing at all. The use of symbolic imagery is a multi-layered strategy, temporality. It helped listeners of that era grasp the magnitude or terror of the event. Eternity. As humanity reaches higher levels of technology, those very images become the keys that prompt us to question what we are creating ourselves. The book of Revelation is like a mirror reflecting every era. What we see in it is not merely a prophecy of an apocalypse, but a reflection of humanity's own capacity to wield world-changing power, a power that, if not accompanied by morality, leads to self-destruction. Lost relics where supernatural power hides, while prophecies and visions are spiritual messages. The Bible also mentions physical objects that possess power, seemingly not of this world. These are not merely ancient artifacts, but spiritual devices, conduits through which humanity sought to connect with the infinite power of God. Their mysterious disappearance has made them the target of seekers, archaeologists, and myth hunters for millennia. The Ark of the Covenant, the box of power. The Ark of the Covenant is the most mysterious and fearsome object mentioned in the Bible. Constructed of acacia wood overlaid with pure gold, it contained the tablets of the covenant, the 10 Commandments, Aaron's rod, and a jar of manna. Yet its true value lay not in its materials, but in the power radiating from it, destructive force. The Bible records that the ark could cause the Jordan River to stop flowing, bring down the walls of Jericho with the sound of trumpets, and strike down anyone who dared to touch or look upon it irreverently. Total disappearance. After Jerusalem was conquered by the Babylonians in 587 BC, the Ark of the Covenant vanished from historical records. To this day, its location remains unknown. Many theories have been proposed that it was taken to Ethiopia, hidden in secret caves beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, or even destroyed in the war. The silence of history regarding this object leads one to wonder, was it hidden away because humanity is not yet ready to face that power again? The Holy Grail, symbol of eternal life, although not explicitly detailed in the original biblical text. The Holy Grail, the cup used by Jesus at the Last Supper, has become an inseparable part of the mystical culture surrounding the Bible. Restorative power. Unlike the stern and terrifying majesty of the Ark, the Holy Grail is associated with healing, sacrifice, and the hope of eternal life. In medieval legends, the Grail was believed to have the power to cure all diseases and grant life to those deemed worthy. The endless quest. The search for the Holy Grail is not just a physical journey to find a cup, but a symbol of the human spiritual journey. The quest for purification and the true meaning of existence. Why did these relics vanish? There is an intriguing perspective that the disappearance of these relics is not a coincidence. In the Bible, the relationship between God and humanity is emphasized as being based on faith, not on physical proof. If the Ark of the Covenant still existed and could be used to prove the power of God, faith would no longer be a voluntary act, but a form of coercion. The disappearance of these relics creates a necessary void, compelling humanity to seek God with the heart rather than through physical senses. These objects, whether real or symbolic, remind us of a profound truth. There are powers in this world that far exceed human understanding and control. They serve as bridges between our finite reality and the eternal realm to which the Bible consistently points. Ultimately, whether you approach these mysteries from the perspective of a historian, a science fiction enthusiast, or a believer seeking faith, there is one common thread that leads us all toward the same destination: the reach for the eternal.